Here are 3 cool hacks for learning Norwegian, especially if you're a bit of a lazy student. But first, if you have other ideas for videos that I can make, please leave a suggestion in the comments below. And if you're interested in taking private lessons with me, you'll find an email address you can contact in the description below. So I guess I'm kind of a lazy student myself, and that's why I think these 3 are particularly interesting, because far from being the most effective language learning hacks you can find, they are definitely efficient in the sense that they don't require you to set aside time for them. So let's take a look at what they are. So one of them is to switch all of your devices and apps to Norwegian. Okay, switch your phone, like literally the whole phone, the phone language. So everything you see is Norwegian. All the navigation will be in Norwegian, as well as your apps. For example, Facebook. If you're using Facebook, there's actually quite a lot of, notifications, varsler, all these words. They will just pop into your head constantly, and they will give you a lot of, input. So I find that this is a really good way to get some free exposure. And that's what these hacks are all about, getting some free exposure to Norwegian, which you don't have to work for. Okay, they might give you a little bit of annoyance when you don't understand, but I think you understand the Facebook app. You don't need to read the text in order to find out what things mean. And if you do, if you have to read and you have to actually translate, what does this mean? Then you actually have to work on the language, and you'll probably learn from that as well, if you have to understand some notification and what is written there. Number 2 is to play games in Norwegian. Do you play video games? Well, perhaps Candy Crush isn't going to help you a lot, but any game which has a lot of language. For example, my favorite game when I was younger was Football Manager, and this is a heavily text-based video game, okay? I had to read lots and lots. And initially, I learned a lot of English from playing this ever since I was like 10 years old. Reading in English all the time really helped me develop my English skills as a young English learner. Then later, like 10 years later, I started playing the same game in Spanish. So I ended up learning lots of Spanish from exactly the same game, a newer version that was. So that's really helpful. Other video games which have a lot of language that come to mind are The Sims and tons of others. I'm not really into video games at all, but I've played a few, and the ones I have switched to a target language, I've ended up learning a lot from. So think through which games you can play, which you can switch to Norwegian. And if you don't play games, but you kind of want to, then you can look at it as an excuse to play that game, because you'll get language learning for free by playing the game. Enough about number 2. Let's take a look at the last one. Switch on the radio and listen passively. So you can find a radio station in Norwegian, for example, nrk.no, NRK radio. They have like tons of different radio stations, and what you can do is basically put it on in the background, especially if you're very new to the language. This will not distract you, hopefully, because you won't understand anything. But what it will do is it will enter your brain, and subconsciously your brain will start to pick it up, and your brain will start to recognize words where one word starts and another one ends, for example. And I think this will be helpful for you to just get used to the sound of the language. So put on the radio, have it in the background. Det var det. 3 hacks you can use to help you learn Norwegian, especially for those of you who are a bit lazy. If you like this video, please leave a thumbs up and consider subscribing. Bye for now.